Since its debut some years ago, the critically acclaimed and widely popular anime series My Hero Academia has received plenty of hate and accolades from fans and industry professionals alike. But where could an anime like this, based around sweet and fun characters, go so wrong? Whether it be upsetting story arcs, depictions of certain characters, or things completely out of the writer's control. First things first, Hirokoshi's depiction of female characters. When it comes to female protagonists, My Hero Academia doesn't exactly have a stellar track record. Some problematic depictions of them include the following. Yuraka is secondary to Midoriya in terms of romantic attraction, but as opposed to Yuraka's peers, they got completely different treatment. But unlike Yuraka, most of her peers like Togura, Tamaki Amajiki, and Nijiri Hado were given no screen time during the Shy Hazakai raid. In comparison to Sir Night-Eye's farewell in the Shy Hazuki arc, Midnight's death in the Paranormal Liberation War is generally skirted over. After the Paranormal Liberation War, Lady Nagant and Kathleen Bate are introduced, although they are shortly eliminated. The My Hero Academia fandom is notorious for its abundance of misogynistic comments and allegations. Some supporters, while acknowledging that there should be more done, nonetheless consider Horikoshi to be one of the best in the industry. In all honesty, it would be unfair to downplay some of his more significant contributions. My Hero Academia, for instance, features a number of female characters with varying body types, such as Inko Midoriya. Not all male protagonists get equal spotlight time. In fact, certain female heroes like Mirko's female counterpart in the Paranormal Liberation War get more screen time. Women's representation has improved slowly but surely in shonen. Since Dragon Ball Z, female characters have been given greater prominence in male-dominated casts, with some even being given key fighting roles. However, these shows still fail to deliver when it really counts. Women are pitted against one another in tournament arcs and relegated to support, utility, and clearing rules, while men face off against the game's primary antagonists. This trend of excellent female characters being confined to support parts is upsetting enough. For example, in the second season's tournament duel between gravity-controlling Yuraka and the explosive Bakugo, Horikoshi seems to be aware of this relationship and explicitly addresses it through sexist perspectives of the characters in the plot. It should be noted though that the animation studio doesn't exactly have a spotless record either. The first episode of season 4 of My Hero Academia, titled The Scoop of UA Class 1A, aired in Japan and was simultaneously dubbed into English.
Now it's your turn. You and the rest of your class.
Right.
The episode focuses on the aftermath of All Might's retirement as the symbol of peace and his search for a successor, with reporter Tokuda interviewing Class 1A and narrowing down the identity of the successor to Midoriya. Class 3A student and current member of the Big Three, Hado, also made a cameo in the episode, after making her first major appearance in the previous episode.
Let's do our best.
The most outspoken members of the My Hero fandom, who examine media with an emphasis on social justice, criticize and accuse the show of because of this character's appearance and small exaggeration of her chest done in the translation from the manga pages to the television anime. These kinds of problems, along with often passive and insignificant positions that women's play in the anime, have angered a sizable portion of the My Hero fandom and likely contribute to factors of the dropping popularity of the show. All for One's return. Many viewers of My Hero Academia thought that All for One was given a fitting conclusion. In the Hideout Raid storyline, his sworn enemy All Might finally defeats him once and for all. All for One was locked up and All Might had his powers taken away.
Which was only a few words long. To me, it meant the opposite.
The tale could shift its focus to Tamura Shigaraki and Izuku Midoriya. Instead, during the Paranormal Liberation War, All for One resurfaces and possessed Shigaraki. Many viewers thought this was a bad creative choice that undermined Shigaraki's authority. Given that All for One is highly manipulative and only looks out for himself, this may seem reasonable to some. Still, there were others in the fandom who hoped Shigaraki would go off on his own. But there is a consensus that All for One is a tedious antagonist who should have been written out of the plot. Fan opinion on the outcome of the Paranormal Liberation War in My Hero Academia was mixed. Tragically, Hawks had to end Twice's life because he was a threat to everyone else. It's up for grabs whether or not Hawk was actually justified. Some of his supporters think he killed someone and manipulated a mentally sick man in the first place. He could have easily come up with some alternative strategy to bring the bad guy to heel. Fans of Hawk's team, meanwhile, noted that Twice's quirk could have enabled him to create carbon duplicates of potentially lethal adversaries. In My Hero Academia, his demise was an absolute requirement. If not, the heroes would have to face off against several Shigarakis at once. As a leader of the League of Villains, Hawks knew he had to do something about Twice, who he considered the greatest threat within the organization. Some of the villain supporters have turned towards Hawks for killing their idol, which has intensified the toxicity towards My Hero's creator. Bakugo told Deku to jump off a roof.
Just pray that you'll be born with a quirk in your next life, and take a swan dive off the roof of the building. Something wrong?
Midoriya, also known as Deku, did not develop a quirk until much later in life. He spent his formative years unable to fully express himself as a result of his weakness. Katsuki Bakugo would persistently harass him. He once encouraged Midoriya to jump from a falling building, which marks a terrible point in the My Hero Academia series. Given that Bakugo consistently wins fan-voted popularity contests for My Hero Academia, many viewers appear to have missed this important detail. Even when he apologized in Chapter 322, it makes no difference. Horikoshi did concede in an interview in 2015 that he overdid it in the beginning with Bakugo. The character's growth in My Hero Academia was praised by certain viewers. However, some people refused to look past that and pointed out that it took years for Bakugo to be held accountable for his conduct. But that still is only the beginning of the anger that My Hero has induced. Deku getting multiple quirks. With the joint training arc, fans finally lost it. In the championship match, Midoriya fully activated the one-for-all quirk. This means that he could draw up upon the accumulated quirks of previous users. This was well received by Midoriya's fans, who saw this as a positive development because it let the character use support quirks to increase his arsenal. They thought it would give more variety to his fighting style than just punches and kicks. Examples include the fact that Black Whip can be employed for both aerial mobility and target capture. Some people said having too many quirks would be a bad thing for the plot of My Hero Academia. Later in the series, Midoriya's peers would be left in the dust as the power creep took over. They also believed that Midoriya had gotten way too strong in such a short amount of time, and they might just be right. In My Hero Academia, Deku had put in a lot of work to learn how to properly use his quirk. When directing his intense energy at large events like the sports festival, he frequently fractured his fingers. This raised the stakes in My Hero Academia since his physical form prevented him from misusing his quirk. He also had to get inventive with how he gained strength. Deku learned the full cowl method from his time with Gran Torino. Because of this, he was able to disperse his quirk all around his body, greatly increasing his range of motion. My Hero's audience cheered for Deku when he overcame his past self-imposed restrictions. It took several plot arcs to get him where he needed to go. However, Deku made history as the first one-for-all user to access numerous quirks during the joint training session. The increase in strength and potential is dramatic and unexpected. During those early school months, Deku worked hard and eventually rose to the top of his class, and his hard work was something that set him apart. Now he's pretty much jumped to pro hero level. New Order quirk. It's possible that Kathleen Bate possesses more power than any other hero in the universe. With the New Order quirk, she was able to rewrite the laws of reality simply by touching her targets, completely tipping the power scale in her favor. Many believe that her powers belong in an anime like Hunter x Hunter rather than My Hero Academia. There was a wide range of responses from the public regarding her abilities, while people that weren't fans of her said she had destroyed the power grid. In the Star and Stripes arc, many fans were dissatisfied with what happened in her showdown with Shigaraki. Squandered characters. What I'm going to tell you next has not been shown in the anime yet, but yet in the manga. Star and Stripe is by far the biggest squandered character. Hailed as America's greatest savior, she met her end at the hands of Tamura Shigaraki when on her way to save the Japanese heroes. There was widespread dissatisfaction that such a powerful and interesting character was introduced and then killed off in such a short amount of time. Although she was able to use her quirk to injure and cripple Shigaraki and All For. Her death hurt even more whenever we found out that she had been a small girl that All Might rescued. Star's death turned her from a potentially interesting character to a plot device used to weaken the villains before the cinematic showdown with All Might and Deku. Even if we don't know what will happen to any of My Hero Academia's characters until the end of the story, we're running out of time. And there's a lot of people who deserve to be highlighted. Horikoshi may have a hard time fitting in necessary character development for Tokoyami or Kaminari, now that they are up against formidable foes like All For One and a supercharged Shigaraki. They're great examples since despite being among the most well-known and influential students in Class A, neither of them have been given a backstory like their friends Jiro, Uraka, and Lita. There's so much unexplored things about characters, especially like Tokiomi. His intentions, the nature of his quirk, Dark Shadow, and more remain mostly unknown. Despite his status as one of the most promising young heroes in the series, he has been overlooked.
3. No. Now the number 2.
Tokiyami, you got a sec?
What intel do you want now?
Let's take this to the sky.
Things have progressively been going downhill for shonen anime for a while now, with severe allegations surrounding its fanbase and the increasing toxicity within it. And now Star's recent death in particular has tipped the My Hero Academia fanbase over the boiling point. One of the most promising anime of all time now seems to be stumbling to a disappointing end for many viewers. So do you guys think My Hero can recover and be as beloved as it used to be? To be honest, I have no idea, but it looks like we've reached the end of the video. I know I pronounced like 90% of the names wrong. I'm sorry. Please subscribe, or I'm gonna fly to your house and subscribe for you.